Hi everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful fall card that I showed you on the live. So we made this one instead. We went with a Christmas version. But as promised, I said I would show you guys how I made this lovely autumn version of the card. We're going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to use copper instead of gold, but we're going to do pretty much the same card, just with a little bit of a different color theme. So this card was done in Pear Pizzazz with gold foil and gold embossing powder, and then I used Wink of Stella, if you can see that shine on there. So I'm going to do ours a little bit different for this one. We're going to use a base of Mary Merlot, and also I changed this. It's going to be the same. It's going to be a hot dog card. So if you wanted to make the hamburger card, which is the one that would open this way instead, you're going to score it at 5.5. You're going to have 5.5 by 8.5, and then score it 4 1/4. So again, this is Mary Merlot. This will be our base card. I'm just going to go ahead and hit that with the bone folder. Then we have a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of copper foil paper. Okay, we're not going to stick this down yet because we're going to actually cut our leaves from this. And then we have a piece of thick Whisper White, and this measures 5 by 3 3/4. So this will layer on top of this. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to put these two pieces on the side so they don't get messed up. We are going to use that foil piece. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using, once again, the Springtime Impression Thinlits die. Now, it also is important to note that this is a little bit smaller. When I did my original card, I didn't trim it or plan for having the foil layer. So this time I made sure that I trimmed this so it would actually be a layer. So if it does hang off a little bit, that's perfectly fine. Or if you wanted to, you could make sure that it was completely covering by sliding it over. So just kind of depends on what you want to do. Now, when you're doing this, I'm going to show you, I did go into depth with this with the other video, so if you want to check that out, it is on YouTube and it's also on Facebook. But this shows you a little bit of how to use the embossing mats. So when you have the embossing mats, the sandwich that you're going to use, you can look onto the paper that came with it. So the emboss only sandwiches here, there's a cut and emboss sandwich and then a regular sandwich. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your Big Shot platform down, you're going to put a cutting pad down, you're going to put your die with it facing up and the paper is going to be on top. Then you're going to put your blue mat down on top of it, and then you're going to put your white hardboard on top of that. And I'm going to put this through the Big Shot. Let me just move these out of the way, and I'll bring that over so I can show you. So I'm going to put this whole, oops, hopefully nothing moved, this whole sandwich through the Big Shot and just crank it through. It does sound a little bit different. It doesn't creak as much. Sometimes it makes a little bit of a kind of strange airish noise, if that makes sense, but you'll get this beautiful impression. Now again, if you wanted this to be a little bit more precise, you could have moved this down to the bottom so it was kind of overhanging, but I'm going to go with this card. I'm okay with that. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, let me move this out of the way while we have it. So if you're going to cut your leaves, so for example, on this card, I put some beautiful leaves on the inside, and what I did was I used the, oh my gosh, I forgot the name of it. I have it right here. I used the die set that goes with the nature, Rooted in Nature. So this is called Nature's Roots. So if you'll notice on this panel right here, I have some pieces that I already cut out. You do want to avoid going too close to the bottom, or else I'll show you why. You're going to have that little piece. This one's kind of like almost close enough, but you don't want to get too close to the bottom because yesterday I did and I had this little spot here. So make sure wherever you're cutting your leaves that you stay kind of in the center of the card. But basically what you're going to do is you can cut your leaves out. You can emboss them, but when you do this, you kind of have to do it a little bit backwards. One other thing you do want to make sure that you have is when you're cutting with either foil or white paper, you want to have a nice brand new acrylic plate to use to cut, because otherwise all those little parts that have been cut before, they will either get in your white paper or they kind of goof up your foil paper. It makes it look just not as pretty. So let me show you what to do. So for this, we're going to do the same thing where we're going to put this on the bottom. Actually, I'm going to use a new plate. I'm going to put this on the bottom. And again, when you're doing this with the embossing, you have to have them underneath. So this one we already have. So I'm going to try and put some of these on here. just away from the edge. I'll just do a couple more just to show you. Put one small one over here and one big one over here. I just want to make sure they all kind of give me enough room to cut them out. So what we're going to do is you can either put down a piece of tape to hold these in place. This is just painter's tape, and this is painter's tape that I've used over before, so it's not new. And then you're going to take this and you're going to flip it over, okay? You're going to put your blue mat down again. You're going to put your white mat down, or your white hardboard, and you're going to crank it back through. Okay, and I'm going to lift this up and show you. Now, if you want a little bit deeper of impression, you can run it through twice, but sometimes with the foil paper, it can tend to cut the paper, okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over. We're going to take these off. Again, I usually just save the tape. I just kind of stick it on my Big Shot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut these out now. So we're going to use the same die. These are the cut die. The only thing that you have to keep in mind is that these are backwards because we ran them underneath. So if you want them to come out correctly, you're going to have to cut them the opposite way as well. So I'm going to do the small, because this one's kind of overlapping. I'm going to do the small leaf and the big leaf. Okay, and once again, I'm just going to put this right here. Now we're going to move on to our cutting, but since again, I do have this new plate here, and I really don't want to mess up my paper, I'm going to put this back together the other way. So I'm going to put my thin die adapter on top of my platform. I have my new cutting pad the closest to my foil sheet, and then this one I'll put on top because it's on the underside. So I'm going to just crank this through. And I will tell you one other thing, and if this is something that bothers you, you can do it the opposite way, okay? Because sometimes you will get a little bit of loss of the depth once you run it back through to cut it. So if you notice, this one is a little bit deeper because it was being cut, but these have kind of become a little bit flat again. So if you can see the difference, this one's very deep, these are a little flatter. So the other thing you could do instead is you could do it opposite. So you could cut it out first, and then you could lay the impressions folder on top of it, or the impression die, but it does make it a little bit more difficult to run through to get them exactly lined up, okay? So just kind of be aware of that, unfortunately. That's just one of the things. You either can have really deep ridges, and I don't think these two would fit together, because I would say we could try that, because I'm not sure if they would fit together. That might be a good... Actually, they do lay together, so let's see if we can get this to line up, and we'll try this once. What we'll do is, I'll do this for both, and that way we can see what these look like. I'll put this one is going to have to go first on this one, because these don't line up quite exactly, so I don't know how this one's going to turn out, but we'll give it a shot for the sake of, yeah, I don't think that one's going to line up as well. So I'm going to cut this one. That other one was a little bit deeper. I'm going to cut this and then I'll go back and emboss it again. So what I'm going to do is, since I have this, again, I do apologize. I know this video was going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to do this as a cut and emboss sandwich, okay? And there is, if you wanted to do both, there is that on here. So we're going to do number 7. So again, we have our platform. We have number 1, which what is number 1? That is our standard cutting pad. We have that down, foil down. And then at some points you have to put them so the die is facing up, and some you put it down. So this one, it wants the paper still with the cutting edge up. So we're going to actually flip this over. So let's see. Might need one more little piece of tape here. Put this over here. And since I have that one piece of tape, I'm going to put the yucky cutting pad on the bottom, because we're going to be flipping this over like that. So we have our cutting pad, then we have 9, and then 8. So again, we're going to have the gray mat. So this is going to be the thick gray mat this time. And then we're going to have our white, what do I do with it? Hardboard. And slide this through. Now this is going to make a lot more noise than that first time, so. Oh, I lied. Sometimes it makes more noise than others. It's strange. All right, so as you can see, I'm going to pull this out. This, for this big leaf here, It didn't exactly cut it all the way for the whole entire thing. So it definitely gave it a major impression. And this one, look, I got a little too close to the bottom on this one too. And then this one here got a really deep impression as well, but it did not cut it. So I'm still gonna have to put this through. Probably should have cut that one, but for some reason it didn't. I don't really know why. So we're gonna put this back through again. And then this, remember, is backwards, okay? So we're gonna put this on like that, backwards. And then this time, since this one is really deep, I'm going to just put this so it cuts it. So we have, once again, we have two different things going on here because the one is embossing and the other one is cutting. So I'm going to have this, I'm going to put my plates back in and let it just cut. Put this face up. And I want to put my good cutting plate on top. Put this back through. See what this looks like. And this kind of, I mean, you just get this from fooling around with it. I, quite honestly, there was some things that when I did them, I'm just kind of playing around. I don't know everything there is to know about these embossing mats just yet. So there we have our, one of our leaves. And then our other one. This was just an impression again. Remember, that just gave an impression. This still needs to be cut. Just gonna pop this through real quick. So it cuts it. And the more times you do run it through, the more times you're going to get a deeper impression. So keep that in mind as well. But again, with using that nice cutting pad, if you'll notice, except for the fact that this one kind of went through 57 different times, the majority of this foil is still very smooth looking. It doesn't have a lot of dents in. This area does because we kind of put this part through several times, but for the most part, it's actually a pretty clean looking piece of foil. Okay, so I'm going to move all this over. And once again, if you don't understand this, all you have to do is once you get these cutting pads, it does come with that, or with the embossing mat, it does come with a little instructional guide. Just give it a look. If not, go back and watch the video again. It is pretty simple once you get used to it. Let me just put a couple of these dies over here so I know what I'm doing. I don't lose anything. And then I'll put the rest of my stuff on here. Let me see, one more. And then I have my impressions thinlit from here. Okay, so we're all done with that part. So we do have a variety of foil. These were gold. I used these the other day. Here's some more of the copper. Some more of the copper as well. So what we're going to do is you can go ahead now and you can put this down if you'd like, or you can wait and stick the other layer to it first, okay? Just kind of depends on what you want to do. So here is our layer. Again, you do want to make sure that you're working on a surface that you don't mind getting ink. So this Tonic Easy Clean mat is really easy to wipe clean. Aside from that, you can also use scrap paper or grid paper. So since we have Mary Merlot, I am going to get the Mary Merlot out, but I'm also going to add in a little bit of orange. So that's pumpkin pie. We'll round it out with a nice old olive. And then why not, we'll bring in, I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to swap Mango Melody for the pumpkin pie. And then I also want to have a yellow, and I think I'm going to go with Daffodil Delight. So with my Daffodil Delight, I'm going to actually use the center pad because my pad isn't quite as juicy as I want. So I'm going to use the tray. For the Mango Melody, I'm going to just use the pad. Same for the Mary Merlot, and same for the Old Olive. My yellows always tend to dry out a little bit faster, and these are also foam pads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start first with the lightest color. So I have a sponge here. So I'm going to just dip in this and just kind of pounce over top and then swirl just to give a little bit of, move these back just a smidge so you can see. So pouncing and then swirl just to give that brightness there so we don't cover that up. Okay, so that was Daffodil Delight. Now I'm going to go to the orange, so I'm just going to flip to a different side of my sponge. Same thing again, just kind of pouncing and then swirling. Pounce and swirl. And these colors I think will look really pretty against that Mary Merlot. And I'm probably going to do the Mary Merlot the lightest. So I'm going to switch to the other side of my sponge now for the green. So again, pouncing in and then swirling. Okay, so we have that. And then for the last one, I have my Mary Merlot, so I'll just use the flat side here. And then swirl. Oh, that's really very full. And this is a very vivid. The Mary Merlot is a really deep color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sponge the edge with the Mary Merlot, so it'll give a nice edge against that copper. I'm going to do the whole thing, and then I'm going to go back in very lightly, if I can find a slightly clean spot, with the Daffodil Delight. I think I use this side. I'll just pick a new side over here. And I'm going to bring in just a little bit of that color over here, just to fill in the rest of the color. Okay, so that's all for the sponging. As you guys can see, it's really very pretty. Every single card is going to look different. And with the Tonic Easy Clean Mat, all you have to do is just wipe it off. So I just use my Stampin' Chamois. Or you could use, if you have some of these lint-free shop towels, these clean really well as well. So this is our layer. We're going to leave this be for a minute, because what we're going to do is we're going to emboss, okay? So I'm going to make sure I get out my embossing buddy, and I'm going to run this on this top corner up here, because you do want to make sure that everything is nice and dry. It is going to mute your color out a little bit, but it's not going to last for long. We're going to do Versamark, and then we just have to kind of figure out a sentiment. That sentiment that's in that stamp set was gorgeous. Life is a beautiful thing. May all your tomorrows be happy as today. You could just do thinking of you. So let me see what fits on here, because some of these are rather large. Yeah, so one of this would be entirely too big. You could also do a happy fall, but let's just do a really pretty You Make Me Smile. I'm going to do that one. So let me grab my block, and I'm going to line that up so I can see it. That's the cool part about these, is that you can actually see what they look like, where you're placing them. And then I'm going to grab my copper embossing powder, so it matches with the copper foil. So we're going to go ahead and ink up our Stampin' Versamark. You want to make sure, I have mine on upside down, that you get it the right direction. So we're going to put this right here. You Make Me Smile. Go right there. So You Make Me Smile. And then I have my coffee filter here. So I'm going to just put this underneath. Grab my copper powder. Sprinkle it on. You don't have to dump that much. I got a little excessive. Give it a good hard flick on the back. If there's anything that you notice you really don't like the way it looks, or you need more, you can always redump. If there's something that you didn't want to like this little piece here, you just brush it off with a little old paintbrush. Okay, just like that. So let me just put, oops, missed my little box there. This right in here. Easy peasy. Lid on. Versamark lid on. Okay, now all we have to do is just heat this up. So I'm going to get my heat tool nice and hot before I put it on there. Okay, so my heat tool is nice and hot, so this should melt very quickly. You can heat it from both sides. Make sure you have it so it's heated so it's nice and smooth. There we go. You Make Me Smile. Very, very pretty. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just assemble this card. Oh, before, you know what I wanted to do? I forgot. I wanted to do this since we did something different. Try to do something a little bit different anyway. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper. If I have one. I know I have one here somewhere. Hold on one sec. There you go. No joke, guys. I have like 8 million pieces of scrap, but when I need one, I can't find it. So what I thought I would do is I have some alcohol here and my Stampin' Spritzer. I actually cleaned out my stinky water, and I'm going to just put a little bit of this copper in there. So I'm going to shake it up really well. This is the copper shimmer paint. Okay, and I'm just going to put 1 drop in because this should be pretty potent. And this is just going to give a little shimmer instead of using that Wink of Stella. Come on, just 1 little drop. There we go, 1 drop. Okay. Okay, and then you're going to put the lid back on. It does go to the bottom, if you can see it there at the bottom, and then just shake it. You can make this as dark or as light as you want it, but you can see it's very shimmery, iridescent in there. And then, let me just try this once. Okay, I'm going to spray this onto my card. So it kind of got rid of that, I'm going to have to do it one more time. It got rid of that dull look from putting on the embossing buddy. Okay, and it does dry pretty quickly because of the alcohol, but I'm going to hit it just with my heat tool. It will also kind of soften your color a little bit just because the alcohol will make the colors blend a little. And there you go. Okay, so let me move this. So now all we have to do is put this together. So let me move this over. Put this so we have a dry side. And it kind of just depends. There's definitely, it's not, you can't probably see it quite as much, the shimmer. Let's see if I can get it on there. It is so pretty though. It's very subtle. You can really see it on the, there you go, on the Merlot parts. So I'm going to go ahead and just make sure this is dry. I'm going to flip this over, and you want to put a really good adhesive on this because we've done a lot of stuff. So I'm going to put some Tombow. Okay. And that way, when we put this down, we can move it around a little bit if we needed to. Okay. And you don't want to put it on there too long because we do have those holes in the back here. So I'm going to flip this over just like that. And we're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to put some more Tombow all over. Okay. And then we're going to put this onto our base. Make sure we have it opening the correct way. Put this on our base right here. Okay. While I have this waiting, I'm going to put a couple blocks on it just to hold it down. Okay, and if you happen to have a heavy punch, you could put that on there as well, just to kind of weight it down. And then what I have is the leaves that we can use for the inside of the card. So for this card on the inside, what I did was I just added a panel and put something in. But I'm going to just put a few leaves on there. And I'm going to say, you make me smile, we have, and then we'll put, may all of your tomorrows be as happy as today, because that's a really nice sentiment. And it's very, actually a very large sentiment. So we'll put that one on the inside. And then I'm going to add in one of these little stamped leaves here, just the outline. And then we'll add a couple of these little leaves to it as well. Actually, what we should do is, I'm going to grab, while this is sitting here, I'm going to grab one thing real quick. So let me get, first of all, a piece of Whisper White. So we're going to use that for our inside. And let me see if I can grab this real quick. I'm going to grab 2 of these, and I should have done this before, so we'll put these 2 leaves on there, so we'll kind of tie it together. So this is from Rooted in Nature. Okay. All right, so let me just trim up this piece of paper, and then we'll finish with this. So we have, this is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. That'll be our inside panel. And I'm going to move this over. Should be fine by now. And what we'll do is, isn't that pretty? It's so sparkly. You can also still add, if you wanted to add the little embellishments, you could put the pearls on there. That'd be really pretty. Just add a couple pearls. So you can use your, take your pick tool, flip this around. like this. Put this one here in the center. It's like every time the phone rings, it makes me not be able to pick up what I'm trying to do. There we go. Put that one in the center. You could use a couple of the larger pearls if you wanted to and put them in the center of the bigger flowers. Just like for a little extra something or other. And I like to put one up top too, just so it's kind of like, not really symmetrical, but so your eye isn't just drawn to one spot. So that way you have like a couple of them dispersed throughout. So there's that. And then we can do is we have our sentiment here and we have our 2 leaves. So I'm gonna put one here, one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one of these in the old olive, but I'm going to stamp it off first. That way these are super, super light. So I'm inking an old olive, stamp off, and then I'm going to stamp one at the bottom and then one at the top, okay? And then I'll do the other leaf in the Mango Melody. I'm going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to stamp this, stamp it off. 3. So I actually got 3 out of it. You could probably do 4. Yeah. So that's the Mango Melody. And then I'm going to do the little sentiment in Mary Merlot. And let me just grab this so I don't ruin it now. My mat, when you stamp with your make sure that's nice since I haven't used this before. Yeah. When you stamp with your photopolymer stamps, you want to make sure that you have a mat underneath so it has some pressure to hit. So put this right here. May all of your tomorrows be as happy as today. Beautiful. Wow. And one thing, I know some people are concerned about when your stamps get stained, but quite honestly, a stained stamp is never going to get lost in your carpet. So keep that in mind. All right, and then we're going to close that up. So then what we're going to do is we're going to add just a couple of these. And you can add these with a dimensional if you wanted to. We'll put a couple of them on just with some Tombow. Put these on there. One there. Put one of these tiny ones up the top here. We'll put this on with a couple dimensionals. And that will finish out our card. So again, I know this was long, but this has a lot of steps to being able to use these embossing mats. And also because we changed the card up a little bit, it wasn't exactly the same as the last one that I did. We'll put this one up top as well. There we go. So very, very pretty. And then we'll just add this to the inside. If I have my fast fuse here, just put this on the inside of our Mary Merlot panel. And I will post again all of the dimensions of the layers and the colors that I switched to for this card on my blog, which is Rachthestamper.com. So there you go. 2 gorgeous cards. One is just a little darker, so if you like the one that's lighter, I did use the Pear Pizzazz on that one. And I used Poppy Parade. I used Pear Pizzazz ink. I used Pumpkin Pie, and then So Saffron. And then if you want one that's just a little bit deeper, then you could use the Mary Merlot. I think this is really pretty. And then both of them on the inside are very, very beautiful as well, with those little leaves. Plus that also gives you a double purpose of using your foil paper. You could use the background, and I still have a lot of leaves left over that we can emboss with. And you can, with the foil paper, you can even mold this. I don't know if you guys have ever done that before, but you can kind of bend it and mold it so it kind of looks even more 3-dimensional. Take your bone folder and just kind of flip it on there. But very, very versatile to use these leaves that way. So lots of little extra leaves we have here too. So this is the only way it's fall here right now because it's still kind of warm outside, which is just crazy. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you have any questions, you can send me an email at rachthestamper.com. You can buy all of these supplies and more in my online store 24/7, rachthestamper.stampinup.net. Thanks for watching and have an awesome day.